Agreement, Russia, Turkey and Iran will set up 4 de-escalation zones in Syria, mainly in rebel-held areas. The Turkish army will provide security and allow aid into the safe zone. The area has seen infighting between rival Syrian opposition groups for control. Now, for more on this, TRT World's editor-at-large, Ahmed al-Burai, joins me now. Ahmed, thanks so much for joining me. Now, let's talk about Turkey and internally. What have the opposition said about this move that was announced today? Do they support it? Do they think it's risky?
A couple of days ago, there was a meeting in the parliament to have a mandate to extend Turkey's mandate to intervene in any of the neighboring countries, basically Iraq and Syria. The main opposition party, the CHP, supported the mandate, and also the Nationalist Movement Party, which is an opposition party as well, supported the mandate, while the HDP, which the pro-Kurdish party, did not attend, and we know that they didn't keep any distance from the PKK, so their chairman is in prison. So this party, it was excluded from the agreement. So this is a kind of consensus here in Turkey that as far as our national security is under threat, Turkey needs to take any measures on the ground necessary to protect the national security of Turkey. And it's a common among the people here in Turkey. If you go to the street, talk to the people, of course they don't want to have any war with the neighboring countries. They didn't prefer to have any kind of military intervention in the KRG, the Kurdistan or the Kurdish regional government, after the referendum. But on the other hand, they don't want to have any enemy in the region. They don't want to have any independent entity, autonomous entity that could be used as a launching pad against their people here. We've seen this with the affiliates of the YPG, the PKK affiliates in Syria. Many of them, they've publicly stated their plans to attack targets here in Turkey. They've carried some of the suicide bombs in Ankara and here in Istanbul. So by any means, none of the opposition people, neither the mainstream or public people, if you go to the people in the street, none of them would like to have this kind of hostile entity. So there is a kind of consensus that we need to stop this kind of threat on our borders.
So there is consensus. Now, what about voices from the Arab world? What is the Arab League saying?
The point is, the Arab League is, let's say, a moribund Arab League. They were not involved in the whole process in Syria. They're sleeping all the way. We didn't hear any voice coming out from the Arab League. Recently, Egypt is trying to be involved, is trying to show that they have a soft power in the region. They could mediate a kind of negotiation between some of the rebels in the south and in the middle with the Russians under the patronage of Saudi Arabia. But after the Gulf crisis, the crisis between Bahrain, UAE, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar and Saudi Arabia, it seems that the Arab League and the Arab countries in general are more involved with their own business. They forget about Iraq. Iraq is completely finished. They forget about Syria. Syria is not there. There are now talks about their silent ally in the region, which is Israel. They do have their own business. Now, if you just consider the visit of the King Salman of Saudi Arabia to Russia, and it's part of this deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia to ostracize Iran and try to isolate it, try to prevent or rein in its hegemonic overextensionist policy in Syria, Yemen and other parts of Iraq. So the Arab League is busy with its own business, and unfortunately the Syrian people are left to face their destiny. It's only Turkey that could be trusted here in the region. And the problem is, again, Turkey is doing this with Iran from the one hand, and Russia from the other hand. Iran and Russia are allies and Turkey is alone. Whatever you say, the leverage of Turkey is not as equal as these two powers.
So no voices there, no noises coming from the Arab world. Thank you so much, Ahmed, for that update.